Good evening. Welcome to the Napoleon Memoirs. This is where I obsess about Napoleon. Hopefully, you enjoy it. So, we're going to get into chapter 4 of the memoirs Count Charles Tristan de Monson, this intriguing character, this man who fooled Napoleon and murdered him. I'm sure of it. How did he do it? How could he fool Napoleon? Napoleon was so smart. But on some level, I think Napoleon knew. You gotta get deep into the story to really appreciate the nuances, all the crazy things going on. All right, so here we go. Chapter 4, the Bellerophon, on the 15th of July at daybreak. The emperor, dressed after his traditional fashion, that is, with his small hat, green coat of a colonel of the chasseurs of the guard, and his sword at his side, left the Isle of Aix and entered into one of the Epervier's boats, which was to convey him aboard the Bellerophon. The white flag was already flying upon the posts and in the roadstead, the Epervier brig being the only vessel which still retained the national colors. General Becker accompanied the emperor less with a view of discharging the commission with which he had been entrusted by the provisional government than that of paying the last mark of respect and honor to his majesty, like all who have ever been admitted to the familiar acquaintance of the emperor. He had felt all the force of that irresistible attraction which his powerful nature exercised over those who came within its sphere. Having gone on board the Epervier, he respectfully approached the emperor and made a deep obeisance. Sir, said he, does your majesty wish that I should follow you to the Bellerophon conformably to the instructions of the government? No, no, quickly replied the emperor with that sagacity of mind which was peculiar to him. No, not at all. No one will desire you to say that you have delivered me up to the English, and as it is in accordance with my own determination that I proceed to their squadron, I do not wish such an accusation to be left resting upon France. General Becker wished to reply, but his voice failed, and he burst into tears. Embrace me, General, said the Emperor, with that melancholy serenity of countenance which had never forsaken him for a single instant. I thank you for all the care you have taken of me. I regret that I did not earlier enjoy your intimate acquaintance. I would have attached you to my person. Adieu, General. Adieu. Sobs deprived the General of the power of speech. A few words, however, struggled forth, and their import was understood. Adieu, sire, may you be happier than we. He then left the brig and returned towards the frigate. In the meantime, the brig had raised her anchor and advanced towards the Bellerophon, preceded by her boats. Napoleon descended in to Captain Maitland's boat, steered by his first lieutenant, and was followed by the Grand Marshal and the Duke of Rovigo, Savory. At the moment in which the boat reached the Bellerophon, the crew manned the yards, and the marines were drawn up on the deck. But the emperor was not received by a salvo of guns. The captain, attended by his officers, awaited the emperor at the gangway and immediately offered to conduct him to the cabin, which had been prepared for his reception, which as much luxury and comfort as was possible at sea in so short a time. And on board ship, emperor, who during the whole time of his sojourn at Rochefort and the Isle of Aix had worn an ordinary coat, resumed, as we have said, the uniform of the chasseurs of the guard. On the morning of the 15th, we also put on our uniforms. Las Casas preferred a military costume to that of a civilian, a counselor of state, or chamberlain, and assumed the dress of a captain in the navy. He had served in the Navy before the Revolution and the Restoration, having reckoned every 4 years to the emigrants as a step in promotion. He became a captain in 1815 and received his brevet, as well as the Cross of St. Louis, which belongs of right to all who have passed 25 years in the service. Emperor had no sooner set foot on board the Bellerophon than he said, Captain Maitland, I come on board your ship to place myself under the protection of the laws of England. The captain only answered by a low bow, and a few moments afterwards presented his officers to the emperor. At the moment when the Epervier was about to withdraw after having discharged this last duty, which was to give her name a place in history, Marshal Bertrand delivered to the captain the following letter, addressed to General Becker, July 15th, 1815. My dear General, we have arrived on board the English ship. We must commend the reception which has been given to us, and it is now our duty to thank you for the care which you have taken of us. I beg you to inform Madame and the Princess Hortense, who are in the neighborhood of Paris, that the Emperor is well, and to convey the same intelligence to Prince Joseph, who is somewhere in the neighborhood of Rochefort. I herewith send you a copy of the letter written by the Emperor to the Prince Regent. It is unnecessary to remind you not to show it to anyone for 15 days at least. You will readily see how inconvenient it would be that its contents should be known before they have been published in the English newspapers. Retain, my dear General, an agreeable recollection of me, and accept the renewed assurance of my sentiments of consideration and respect, Bertrand. Well, I don't know if you guys were following my last English book, but it was the Memoirs of Captain Maitland. It was the first memoirs we did by an English officer. It was really exciting because Napoleon always spoke very highly of Captain Maitland. And the whole time he's saying, I never promised Napoleon anything. I never promised him. Napoleon's saying, look, I am holding you people accountable to your laws. And Maitland's going, I'm not promising you anything. Which he didn't promise them anything. But they did have laws that got thrown out the window. But Napoleon, I've looked at this story from a million angles. He wanted to show the world what that government really is. That's what this is really about. The whole thing's a farce. It's all this group behind the governments who pretend that they're decent people, but they're not. I really want people to know that. All right, so we're gonna go into Italian. I can't make this point enough. We're still under these people, this group, this criminal group. You can call them a lot of things, but their behavior speaks for itself, and we suffer from it very much. And it's only gotten worse since then. So I feel if it's gonna be this bad, I need to fight it. All right, so now it's time for Italian. This little man, this little 5-foot man, who's an aristocrat, who loved Napoleon. It's a very intriguing man. He wanted to be part of history for sure. My numbers aren't working out with my favors. Hopefully I'll figure it out. Okay, 450. It's not always easy. Okay, so last time Napoleon was understanding that Ney was executed. I told you about Ney, who was a general who was sent to capture Napoleon. And then Napoleon came out all badass and he said, you want to shoot me? Here I am. That's why we love him. And his soldier said, we didn't even put bullets in our guns. We'd never shoot you. And then Ney had to go along with it. And then they executed him. Because the soldiers mutinied under him. That's crazy. That's terrorism. I want people to recognize terrorism. Terrorism is stuff like that. It's to scare everybody into not talking. It's really sad. All right, time for Italian. Lei diceva l'imperatore, tanto mi hai accusato quanto mi hai difeso. Era stato condannato dalla Camera dei Pari in onta ad una sacra capitolazione. Era un nuovo errore l'aver lasciato compiere l'ultimo supplizio, che da quell'istante se n'era fatto un martirio. Si capiva che non si avessi perdonato all'Evdoyer perché sarebbe veduto nella clemenza una predilezione per la vecchia aristocrazia, ma il perdono di lei sarebbe stata una prova della forza del governo e della moderazione. Dal principio si dirà forse che facei mestieri d'un esempio, ma il maresciallo non lasciava per fermo di offerirlo meno dietro un perdono e dopo essere stato avvilito da un giudizio. Era per lui una vera morte morale che gli toglieva qualsiasi influenza all'autorità. Non pertanto aveva vibrato il suo colpo. Il sovrano era soddisfatto e l'esempio compiuto. La clemenza ricusata alla Valette e la sua fuga erano nuovi torti, tutto impopolari, diceva l'imperatore, ma i convegni di Parigi, osservava egli, mostravano le passioni stesse del club. La nobiltà imitava i giacobini. Del restante l'Europa rimaneva in una compiuta anarchia e seguivasi apertamente il codice dell'immoralità politica. Tutto ciò che cadeva in mano dei sovrani diventava buono per ciascuno di essi. Almeno ai miei tempi io ero fatto segno alla recriminazione di tal fatto. Allora i sovrani non parlavano che di principi e di virtù, ma oggi che erano vittoriosi, sbrigliati, praticavano impudentemente ciò onde essi stessi loro lo rinfacciavano, quasi risorsi, quali speranze lasciano, e si adunchi ai popoli. E le morali, la nostra francesi faceva egli notare, illustravano almeno i loro affetti. La signora Lebedaier fu per morire da dolore. Questi giornali ne fanno sapere che la signora ne diede lo spettacolo della più coraggiosa e tenace devozione. La signora Lavalette era per diventare l'eroina dell'Europa. This is so interesting because Napoleon is saying that the nobles are starting to act like the clubs. And when he says clubs, he means the secret societies. That's what the clubs means in this. The clubs are his enemies. They're giving him a ton of trouble. And they are conspiring and plotting against him nonstop. And they are behind things. And they killed the Batailleur, who's a big character in this story, particularly in Hortense's memoirs. He was such a patriot. He was such a good person. They killed him just basically for being a good person. Look it up. So sad. So obviously his wife's upset, lost her husband. Ney was executed for a mutiny that was beyond his control. He was not even a fan of Napoleon's. Absurd. Didn't even like Napoleon, they killed him. So that's crazy. And that was like Hortense's good friend from high school. It's not high school, but you know what I mean. What they had for high school, her boarding school friend. Anyway, and then he's saying Lovelet's wife busted him out, and she's the heroine of Europe. But she went crazy, unfortunately. She lost her mind in jail. In jail! She ended up in jail because she switched places with Lavalette. It's an incredible story. Like, how does everybody not know this incredible story of Madame Lavalette? I want people to know about this incredible story, the story of Madame Lavalette. Anyway, that's one of my little agendas. I want people to know about Lavalette and Madame Lavalette. And that was Hortense's cousin, Emily de Beauharnais, who crazily wanted to marry Louis Bonaparte, who ended up being Hortense's husband. And he was a horrible, horrible husband to her because he was so madly obsessed with her. He was so obsessed with Hortense that he mistreated her, and she was obsessed with Napoleon. I'm always talking about this. Napoleon and his stepdaughter were obsessed with each other, and Napoleon made his stepdaughter marry his brother to keep him close to her. Disaster, complete disaster, because Louis was in love with her too. He couldn't handle that his wife, who he did love, was badly in love with Napoleon. Destroyed all their lives. It was horrible. And then Napoleon III, who became Emperor of France, who was Mama's boy completely. He grew up to do everything that his mother wanted. His mother wanted him to vindicate Napoleon because she was so obsessed with Napoleon. So obsessed. She was so incredibly obsessed with him. I'm always telling her story. Because guess why? Anyway, so time for Lavalette. This incredible story. Poor Lavalette's in jail for running the post office. His wife just lost her child from grief. So sad. It's unbelievable. The lives that are destroyed because of this secret society nightmare. It's unbelievable. I mean, all I can do is fight it because I'm so against it. They don't even want you to think this is happening. It's all conspiracy theory, right? It's all in my head. It's not in my head. It's the truth. It's very easy to verify these things. Oh, don't get me started. Oh my goodness. Please don't. I'll never stop. The ranting will never end. I can't deal with all this. Anyways, time for Lavalette. Poor Lavalette in jail. Ce qui me tourmentait bien plus de mon procès était l'état de Madame Lavalette. Ses fils, dont j'ai le désir de sa vie, venaient de lui être enlevés. Je vais exiger d'elle que pendant sa grossesse, elle ne vint pas à la conciergerie. Les tristes spectacles de ton puissant. La vue de mon cachot pouvait produire un effet terrible sur elle. Je vais pas le même motif défendu. Grand, ma mère, mon fils, tout ce qu'on m'avait rapporté de la tendresse passionnée de la mère pour cet enfant me faisait trembler peu sa santé. Sainte Rose se contentait de me parler de ses larmes, de sa douleur, mais cherchait à me rassurer sur les suites. Maintenant, quel serait le résultat des débats? La peine de 5 ans de prison était bien dure, mais je pourrais le voir, lui donner des consolations, conserver la direction de notre fortune en désordre, et enfin lui présenter en perspective un avenir plus heureux. Mais si cette peine était la mort, que deviendrait-elle dans son infortune? Par fatalité trop commune, dont la révolution, ses familles peu nombreuses étaient dispersées en une vie disparue. Son père était depuis longtemps revenu de l'étranger, mais il s'en avait ramené une seconde femme dont il avait des enfants, quoiqu'il fût excellent, de nouveaux liens, les affections nouvelles et son éloignement de Paris ne pressentions pas sa fille, reçue si bien efficace. Ma seule espérance serait posé sur le comte Alexandre de la Rochefoucauld, son allié, qui nous avait donné des preuves gracieuses de son affection depuis plusieurs mois. C'est au milieu de ces agitations qui me fait annoncer le futur des débats. Le 19 novembre, on me communiqua la liste des jurés 18 étudiants au nombre de 36 passionnés m'étaient connus. Il fallait pouvoir démêler. Parmi eux, 12 hommes d'une conscience assez ferme et d'un esprit assez éclairé pour résister à l'exaspération de l'opinion et de menace de l'autorité. Cette liste s'est composée de quelques marchands, d'avocats, de deux membres du Conseil d'État, toujours excepté le premier, dont l'indépendance des positions n'était rien moins qu'établie. Je fis faire des copies de cette liste et plusieurs de mes amis s'étaient de prendre des renseignements sur chacun d'eux les visiter. Et c'était un dimanche, il fut très difficile de parvenir jusqu'à eux. Et le lendemain matin, les notes qui me feront remises présentaient des opinions si opposées que je ne savais que réciter ou admettre. Il fallut cependant monter au palais avant d'entrer dans la salle où les jurés étaient rassemblés. On me fit attendre dans le cabinet du président où se trouvait un huissier de la cour criminelle. C'était un jeune homme dont le regard fixé sur moi avec un vif intérêt, semblant me questionner sur la liste que je tenais à la main. Faites-moi lecture, homme, me dit-elle avec émotion. Votre sœur est sur ce papier. Je pouvais quitter mieux que qui que ce soit. À chaque nom, Mimi disait, celui-ci de deux, cet autre frère, rayez vite celui-là. Il avait à peine écouté tous noms lorsqu'on m'appela pour assister au tirage des jurés. C'était un spectacle imposant. 36 personnes ressemblaient debout en face des magistrats étaient l'accusé. Et 12 autres ayant prononcé sous sa destinée, j'ai promené mes regards sur cette assemblée. J'ai cherché de la bienveillance, bienveillance, de l'impartialité de moi. Et il me semblait y voir une sorte de sympathie pour moi, la gravité de leur maintien, le regard passé, la mélancolie répandue sur le visage, et le silence profond qui régnait dans la salle m'inspirait une tranquillité qui s'augmentait à chaque minute. Les premiers noms qui sortiront de l'urne, je les repoussai parce qu'ils avaient été pour mon bienveillant huissier. Mais le 13e, M. Aaron de Villefort, je l'acceptais. On me disait du bien dans les renseignements de mes amis. C'était un ingénieur des mines, constamment employé pour l'empereur dans les mines du Harz. À Hanovre, on m'assurait qu'il était homme de science et d'esprit. Enfin, il avait été maître des requêtes au Conseil d'État des montants. Je m'applaudis donc de la voix plus président du jury. À son nom succéda celui de M. Jurien, conseiller d'État actuel et ancien émigré, je crois. Je l'acceptai avec une répugnance secrète et une sorte de pressentiment qui me serait contraire. Et à la suite se prouvera et je m'étais trompée. Well, it's saying he's so sad that his wife's baby died because it was the hope of her whole life to have this son. And he's thinking, well, if he's in jail for 5 years, that he can somehow put his life back together. But if they kill him, he doesn't know what he's going to do for her. He loves his wife. So, and then he goes into the jury selection process of his trial. It's so sad. And he's saying everybody's really like has their head lowered. They all feel guilty for being a part of this sliminess. It's disgusting. Like they get everybody involved in these horrible things that they do. Everybody knew that Lovelock was a wonderful person. And he's on trial to kill him. I mean, obviously, all these people couldn't believe the situation they were in. So he's picking the jury, and he's got some shady people that he has to let on, and he knows he's in trouble based on what he's saying here. All right, so Francesco Marshy, the Corsican doctor, the very last days of Napoleon. Napoleon's so sick. He's just begging everybody to get him out of this situation because it's going to kill him. He's dying. And of course, they want him to die. So and then they lie, these agents at St. Helena. Oh, he's fine. Everything's wonderful here. The climate's perfect. They just lie and lie and lie. That's the solution for them. Just make it up. It's just all of them get together and lie together. And that's what you see on St. Helena. They go, oh, Napoleon's fine. He's healthier than we are. It's not true. But they don't care. That's why they're there. They're there because they will lie. All right, time for Spanish. The lying is out of control. People don't realize how there's a whole culture of people who get to be rich because they lie together. It's a huge problem, and the people who are honest can't understand how such a thing is possible, but they're brought up to be that way. I want people to understand that. All right, here we go. 19 de julio, el emperador experimenta calofríos, fiebre, tos seco y frecuente dolor de cabeza, náuseas y vómitos de materias biliosas muy amargas y vómitos de dolor del llago. Se hace sentir con violencia y se extiende hasta la espalda. Tiene la respiración difícil y dolorosa. La parte inferior de la pierna y el pie derecho presentan una hinchazón acompañada de un dolor bastante fuerte hacia la articulación y una inflamación erisipelatosa, especialmente de la canilla externa. Estos síntomas se han manifestado desde el día 7 y están hoy en su mayor grado de intensidad. Reposo, bebidas refrescantes, reparos locales, lineamientos, jabonáceos y lavativas. 20 de julio, Napoleón ha dormido por espacio de 1 a 3 horas. Al amanecer se le ha manifestado un ligero sudor en diferentes veces. El pulso comenzaba a indicar la cesación de la fiebre. Los síntomas mórbidos son menos intensos. Sin embargo, el enfermo padece mucho de dolor en la articulación y se niega a tomar purgantes. Yo continúo empleando los fomentos locales, lineamientos, lavativas y demás. 21 de julio, el emperador está mejor. Continúa sus lavativas y lineamientos. 22 de junio, sigue en el mismo estado. Baño. Al 10 de la mañana, a la noche de venir el dolor de la articulación, pero la hinchazón aumenta. Lavativas y lineamientos. 23 de julio, ha pasado la noche muy agitada, con tos seco, dolor en el hígado que se extiende por toda la región lateral derecha. El baño que ha tomado a las 4 de la tarde ha producido alivio. A las 10 de la noche aumenta todavía la hinchazón de la pierna, el dolor y la inflamación. Erisipelatosa se mantienen en el mismo estado continuo con los lineamientos y le aconsejo tome el suero clarificado. Baño. 24 de julio. Está mejor el emperador. Suero, lineamientos y baño. 25 de julio. Sigue lo mismo. No quiere tomar más suero. Linimentos y baño, 26 de julio, sin novedad, sustituyó el suero con agua de arroz, alimentos y baño. Viendo que el emperador estaba mejor, le hablé de Roma y de su madre, en quien pensaba continuamente. Estaba recordando su efecto, su ternura y los cuidados que le había prodigado cuando repentinamente exclamó: mucho me ha visto, doctor, ni las contrariedades, ni las fatigas y disgustos. Nada os arredra cuando se trata de asistirme. Sin embargo, todo eso no llega a la solicitud maternal. Ah, mamá Leticia, y se cubrió la cabeza. Entonces procuré presentarle ideas menos tristes. Le hablé de la Italia, de la Córcega y las personas que le querían bien. Él pronto me escuchó con indiferencia, pero habiendo traído la conversación el nombre de su nodriza, me contó menudamente el gran cuidado que ésta había tenido de su infancia y la especie de adoración que tenía por él. Vino a París para asistir a la coronación. Me divirtió mucho con sus historias por la manera viva y animada con que las contaba y por sus gesticulaciones a la genovesa. Agradó mucho a Josefina, a la familia y particularmente al Papa, que la colmó de bendiciones y no me ocultó la sorpresa que le habían causado las ocurrencias y el buen juicio de la devota. Yo le di otra cosa más lucrativa que aquellos actos que aguardaba con tanta fe, pues a este traspaso de 120.000 francos con bienes, viñas y mi casa paterna, mi madre, aconsejada por el cardenal, se obstinó en no querer entregar la casa, sino que haciéndolo ocupar por Rabolino, dio a este en cambio una parte de la suya. La doctrice reclamó, pero no la escucharon. Envió a su hija a París, pero halló cerrados todos los conductos. Estuvo más de 6 meses sin poder hacerme llegar su reclamación. Esta oposición me extrañó y para vengarla de ella hice escribir a Ramolino que, pues quería guardar nuestra casa, debería entregar la suya por entero con un abono de 20.000 francos. Y solo así quedaron todos contentos. A mí no triste con ese dinero más. So Leva goes very intensely into the details of Napoleon's illness and what's happening to Napoleon. It's so horrific. I don't want to talk about it. They were destroying his digestive system slowly. So it would look like natural causes. And Antoine Marquis letting you know every disgusting detail of what's happening to this poor man because he wants everybody to know how truly evil it was what they did to him. And Napoleon, in all his suffering, wants to talk about his mother and how much he loves his mother. He just loved his mother so much. He admired his mother immensely. And Lavalette Singh, I tried to get him to talk about Italy. I tried to get him to talk about Corsica, just anything so he wouldn't be so sad about his mother. And then he starts talking about his wet nurse, who he also loved. He did everything for his wet nurse, too. He wanted to give the family house to her. I think he ended up giving the family house to her. And his family was like, no, you can't give it to the wet nurse. He did everything for her. He let her see the Pope and he put her up in Paris. He loved to do things for people. He was so incredibly generous. But his wet nurse loved him. And anybody who loved him, he would do anything for them. I just want people to know what he was like. He's going on about all the things that he enjoyed doing for his his wet nurse. She did love him, and he loved her. She was like a second mother to him. Anyway, so it's time for Les Causes in German and the difficult factor that we do our best to get through it. Okay. No, I don't always understand what he's talking about. This is the still the conquest of Italy. We're not in the conquest of Italy anywhere else but here. And this is military stuff. It's hard for me to understand English. Certainly German. I mean I can see what he's saying, but I don't understand. I don't understand what he is as a military general. Unfortunately, hopefully one day. Gesegd von St. Michael. In vervolg des von Wiener Hof angenommenen Plans bekam Provera das Kommando des Army Corps, das an der Edge operieren, diesen Fuß passieren und aus Mantua marschieren sollte. Die Freiwilligen Bataillon von Wien machten einen Teil dieses Army Corps aus, das aus 3 Divisionen, so zusammen von 20.000 Mann bestand. Zu den ersten Tagen des Januars verlegte Provera sein Hauptquartier nach Padua, denn zweiften, wenn der Sieger mit 3 Divisionen nach Montagno vor Avantgarde unter dem Kommando des braven General Dufour stand. Im selben Augenblick marschierte auch die 3. österreichische Division, die auf den Hohen von Caldera Position genommen hatte, nach St. Michael so und die Avantgarde Messina, so dessen Hauptquartier souverän war, das selbst anzugreifen. Das sollte jedoch nur ein Scheinangriff sein. Der General Dufour, welcher mit Tagesanbruch von der Avantgarde Proveras angegriffen war, die aus den Wiener Freiwilligen bestand, hielt sie leicht zurück und warf sie mittags, aber hatte sicher die ganze österreichische Armee entwickelt. Jetzt zog Sieger Dufour zurück und ging wieder über die Ätsche zu Legnago. Die Division welcher den rechten Flügel Proveras bildete und St. Michael eingriff, war die schwächste. General Messina marschierte von Verona aus zur Unterstützung seiner Avantgarde herbei. Die erste Division war durchgebrochen, zerträgt und mit dem Degen in der Hand bis über den Alpen verfolgt. In diesem Augenblick kam der französische General mit zur Post von Bologna an. Seine Agenten in Venedig hatten ihn von der Bewegung der österreichischen Armee auf Padua unterrichtet. Er hatte die italienischen Truppen an der Grenze von Transbritannien kampieren lassen, um den Papst des Stil zu bieten. Die 2000 Mann Franzosen von Bologna nachgeführt, dirigierte für sie bei Ponte di Lago ferner über den Po gegangen wären und sie mit der Armee an der Edge vereinigt hatten, er selbst ging zu. Bürgerfahrt über den Po begab sich ins Hauptquartier von Rovabello und kam eben in Verona beim heftigsten Feuer des Geschecks von St. Michael ein. Sogleich befahl Messina alle seine Truppen in der Nacht nach Verona zurückzuziehen. Der Feind schien operieren zu wollen. Und man musste also alle Truppen disponibel erhalten, um sie dahin zu verwenden. Vor der Hauptangriff verfallen würde. In der Nacht erhielt man die Nachricht aus dem Hauptquartier von Legnago, dass die ganze österreichische Armee sich nach der unteren Edge in Bewegung. Der Generalstab des Feindes sowie 2 Schiffbrücken sich dort befinden. Der Rapport des General Dufour, eines vertrennten Offiziers, ließ keinen Zweifel an der großen Zahl der Truppen übrig, die gegen ihn sich aufgestellt hatten, und er schätzte sie auf 20.000 Mann, meinen, dass dies die erste Linie des Feindes sei, durch die Kriege von dem, was sich bei Corona zugetragen hatte, war man in der Annahme, dass der Feind auch für die Unteredge hinoperiere, verstärkte. Jupiter medalte, dass er während des ganzen 12. vom Feinde angegriffen worden sei, sein Feuer ausgehalten und die österreichische Divisionen in allen ihren Versuchen zurückgewiesen habe. He's talking about Dufault. I mentioned him before. Something heroic he did in battle. I really can't tell you. But Dufault was the person he set up with his first fiancée, Desiree. And Dufault was killed right before they got married. And then she ended up with Bernadotte, who became the king of Sweden, who was one of the people who brought Napoleon down with Napoleon's help, because he was so bad at checking him, because he felt guilty about jilting Desiree for Josephine. I mean, it's such an important part of Napoleon's story that he couldn't stop Bernadotte because he felt so guilty because he jilted Desiree. Anyways, this is about Defoe. So he's always like trying to give his best guys to Desiree to make up for it. So he's always trying to make it up to her. It's really sad because she did love him, but he had other plans. Anyway, I hope you have a very good evening. Thank you for listening. Good night.